There's that godlike complex that is unjustifiable because you and I are human beings. What makes you think you're better than me? So when you deliberately, consciously go out of your way to kill hundreds of people at a go, it's a glitch in the system. It's not supposed to happen in a spiritual world, because where are all these people?
Welcome to another edition of Mindset Profits. This is an exciting one, but an episode that I'm also anxious to see how it's going to go. I was talking to the young gents here, and I won't even mention who, but I was saying Human Rights Day is coming, and they asked, what's that?
I can totally believe that.
Someone was saying we have grown up to not appreciate the value that is in our history, how the country came to be, the struggles, the sacrifices. So what I want to do today is to just go back, talk to people who know their stuff, who are going to educate us on why we have a Human Rights Day, its impact on our lives, the sacrifices that have gone before us to give us the democracy and freedom that we are enjoying today. So I have Tsoana Nhlapo. I hope I said your name right.
Proper.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
So you reached out and you were saying you have a very important message that's coming at an opportune time.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
It also boils down to the question that you said with your crew, Ugote. Everybody's going to wonder, what's that?
Yeah.
Right? And if it is based on our history as a country, and somebody says, what's that? It means there's some glitch in the system, right?
There's a mistake somewhere.
Because then when you're sitting at home, why are you sitting at home? And if we forget such strong messages or such strong history, but in you never know where you're going. So that's why we feel like we're in this, this loop as South Africa, because there's no collective vision, which is Siagopi as a country. And so we hear it's crime, it's electricity, it's this. But all of those things, they impact our lives, yes. But where are we taking the country? That's why everything is falling apart, because that's now that goal.
We don't have clarity on where we're coming from.
So
and
how
it becomes very difficult to see
where we're going.
Okay. Well, the event that we're going to be talking to is the Sharpville Massacre, which is arguably the one event that many attribute to a turning point, the shift that practically ended apartheid.
Yes.
Am I right to say that?
Perfect. You're perfect. And that does not mean there were not atrocities before. There was not cruelty from the white people to, in this setup that they had forged for themselves here and using us as labor, right? It doesn't mean there were not atrocities before, because there are a lot of massacres that they did prior. Starting with the 1902 negotiation, when they decided, okay, in this country, you and I are the people and the rest are under us. Do you understand? Yeah. So that was the violence that started back then. But what 1960, 21st March then did was to take out the message from within our borders to all over the world. And everybody started sitting up with,
Can you summarize it? What happened?
So, So after 1902, the separation or the declaration that Black South Africans are not Africans in their country, then the ANC started to form as a resistance, which you can't cut us out of everything, as if we don't exist when you found us here. So that the resistance then kept growing for over there from 1912 until now, right? But what happened then in 1955 was that they decided to say, okay, our struggle is a collective one, meaning everybody that lives in South Africa belongs in it.
Okay.
And that then said, there is no priority to redress what has been happening, particularly to the African people, right? And then there was a split away from the ANC, and then the PAC was formed to say, we cannot talk anything about Tina Sonke, Singagalungelwa Tina, right? So as the custodians and not the owners, I think we should also be careful in the things that we talk about.
Yeah.
The custodians, we don't own the land, right? But so as the custodians of this land, we cannot be now not receiving or be the lowest common denominator. So akuqale ngathi thina sizosho ukuthi mesithi non-racialism, what do we mean? But I understand that there were people who were living here before, and the very people that are very much disenfranchised to this point. So PAC was formed on that land first, right? And then laba batho yithi sonke. So 1960, then what happened was that the PAC, I think it was formed the later stage of 1959. So it was a few months old as a party. The PAC then decided to do a series of campaigns, resistance campaigns. And one of their key campaigns was the PASS campaign. To say what the PASS law was that everywhere where you go as an African people must have as an African person, kumele uphathe dompas. And that dompas needs to tell us why you're here, who your name is, who employed you, how long are you going to be here. And if for 1 second I step outside and I don't have it, and unfortunately, the worst that could happen is I'll be harassed, or the least that could happen is that I'll be harassed. I'll be arrested. Some people never came back.
Whoa.
Banyamalal, because they'll take you and they'll do with you. And nobody, some families are still sitting with people that disappear on that. But having to have a passago means you are not a human being. I must regulate your movement back and forth. So the PAC then says, we're going to resist. What we're going to do is we're going to leave our passes at home and then go to the nearest police station, which was Bambe. Now, in one township, there's thousands of us. Their police stations, if they're existing at that particular time, they're not going to be able to arrest us all. And we're going to collapse this system. That was the plan.
To let's all leave our passes at home and go to the street. And these were young people doing this.
Oh. Thank you. Yes. These are totally young people. The leader of the ANC at the time was Professor Mangaliswa Sobukwe, right? But PAC had then branches all over the country. And in Shaville in particular, when you talk about young people, the leader of the campaign of the PAC at that time, we call him Undade Nyakan because he's an elder. But at that time he was 19-year-old.
The leader?
Yeah.
At 19?
Yes.
Why do you think that was, though?
Two things. Shaville was a product of, what do they call this? What they did to Sophia Town, forced removals. So Shaville was a product of forced removals. So modern day Vereeniging, which is a town now, was a place like Sophia Town where everybody lived. So black, colored, Indians, whatever, they all lived because it was closer to work. Yeah? And then when they decided to clean up the towns now, making them white, Shaville was part of the product of that. Meaning they took people from the town, from Top Location to Shaville. But what they did, and this is why maybe the population was young, what they did is that they handpicked people who were going to make it to Shaville. It was not everybody. So they picked the strongest, the youngest, people who benefit them, even though they were elderly people, but you were chosen strategically that, okay, this one will help us. If we need labor, we've got a good 30 years out of the strong men, right?
Okay.
So that's why it was a young community in that sense, right? So Abonyaka Netolo at 19, Iskolo was not up to matric. If you are like, you make it to university. So once you are done with school, M7Z. So they were the people that felt the brand the most because they provided they were the tools of the industry of the Val. And the reason why that industry was important because in Valley there is water, and the river, right? We had coal. So our bedrock underneath the townships, Amalife. And before all of these, even now, our electricity is done by coal. So coal has been that resource that was very important at the time because it produced electricity and it also powered the steam trains that will transport goods.
So you're saying when they were setting this up, it was purely economic?
Oh, yeah. That's why we're on your podcast.
there was money.
It was
involved.
money. It was about profit. But this then gives you an idea to see how they look at people in pursuit of that profit, right? So it was coal, it was steel with ISCO, which is now ArcelorMittal, and the fourth one was electricity. So all of these industries that were operating in the Vaal at the time, they powered Johannesburg with the gold rush. So the mining of the gold was powered by the industry. That's a Vaal, right? And then the diamond rush in Kimberley was also powered by the very same industry.
Interesting.
So it was
All right. No, I see the picture now. The question still is the older generation.
Yeah.
Why were they not doing anything? Even if there was the split and segregation.
They were there. Some of them, the people
They
that
did
that
join.
passed. Yeah. But the leaders, the youth are the youth are the ones that needs to take the country forward. You know why? Because they still have that fire in them. And if you think back also to your youth, you don't want to why bakhuluma so? Let's do this. There's always that fire in the youth. Abu Mandela, when they started the youth league, it was the same thing, because the older generation, Abu Lutuli, they were like, no, it's going to be non-resistance. We're not going to fight. We're going to appeal to their humanness, all of that stuff. Since 1902 until 1960, it was that. No, we're going to appeal to their humanness. We're going to appeal to their humanness. And it never yielded anything. So with the conference there, 1940 or 1944, ANC, then Abu Mandela emerged. And they were like, no, this does not work. So even the current day youth, this is why it's so concerning that the youth of today don't know what the country is about, what human rights is about to start with, because then they're the ones that need to fight for us. If we're saying we're observing human rights, they're the ones that needs to be championing it, to say it's not the same, we're still not there, we're worse off. To 1994, when you said this was going to be Human Rights Day.
I'll ask what human rights means to you and what it should mean to us. What I'm curious though is what then happened, what caused the massacre itself, and how did that shift come about? To say enough is enough, we are taking this to war now.
This thing is two ways, right? From the African perspective, everybody was fed up. Can I say that in your podcast? Everybody was fed up. Hence the responses that the campaigns that the PAC was doing. So it was not a campaign as a Shaville. It was a nationwide campaign. So all African people all over the country were told, we're going to make this system collapse. So go to your nearest police station and protest against this law. So they were, from our perspective, right? And so they did. They all went to different police stations to do what the call was about. And so did the people of Sharpeville. Now, let's take it now to the perspective of Wewelu, right? They, for whatever reason, I think once we start questioning and answering these, whatever happened in the past, we'll get the true answers, if not all of them are dead by now, right? Or they're dying out. Out of all the townships in South Africa that had gathered, out of all the gatherings, like in Everton, there were about 20,000 people that were gathered. It's a huge number, right? In Soweto, there was Prophet Robert Sobukwe, who was the leader of the PAC, right? In Vanderbijl Park, which is closer to in Bupilong, the people of Bupilong did not have a police station, so they marched through Vanderbijl Park in town to go to their nearest police station, right? So all of those different townships, right? Somebody executive decided that no, we're going to deploy over 140 white policemen at Shaville. We're going to deploy army vehicles, Amasarasin, at Shaville. We're going to deploy fighter jets at Shaville. And we're going to deploy one of the head of the police in the country in Shaville. So we don't know why that space was chosen. Well, we have theories, right? But they have not said it out loud. So all of that seems very calculated. And it's not a random thing that, because like I said...
Why choose
exactly, because like I said, if
Sharpeville?
Sobukwe was in Sebokeng, there was a bigger crowd in Everton. Some of the crowds went through a wide residential town. Those are the threats if you're looking at it from where I'm sitting.
And they were not shot.
No. And Elanga in Cape Town, they were shot. I think there was also one person who was shot at Bupilong, right? And then the massacre in Shaville. But the excessive arms were deployed in Sharpeville. I mean, it was...
What are some of the theories, though?
As to
Are they
why?
hard to say?
Yes, they are theories.
Yeah. I'm just curious. What are some of the theories to
it's
say?
the labor.
Why would you choose that town?
Shaville was the labor force.
They had a
industry.
big... Okay.
If those 4 industries did not function, right, it means Johannesburg gold stops. It means Kimberley stops.
The coal and the steel. Oh, okay.
All of those things, because with the coal, you're able to have trains. I needed to move the goods this point and that point, and then out of the country to the harbor, right? Electricity powers everything, right? Water is an essential element on all industries and even livelihood. Insimbi builds all of these things. So we're an engineering town. We're an industrial town that powered this gold that was they were making money out of, and Kimberley at the time, right?
Get you.
But the backstory now is that on the 21st of January 1960, exactly 2 months before the massacre, there's a mine outside today's Val, but back then Val took elements of Free State. So Sasolburg was part of Val, right? There's a mine, there was a coal mine there that was functioning as one of the mines to provide coal for Eskom and everything else that needed coal at the time, right? What happened on the 21st of January 1960 at that mine was that when the miners showed up for work, some of the gifted Africans said, it's not right. You know, like how they say, when the tsunami happened, all the animals left. As people who have that sense, we just today, we don't see nothing. We don't collaborate at all with nature, and so things happen to us. But there are still people who can sense things. So one of the fathers, Ubaba Bega Lapayana, said, "This is not a good day to go underground." And some of the people that knew go to Ubaba Lo
is gifted.
I got gauge. No, and so the miners were like, no, we're not going down. And Capital, what they did was to call police and to force people to go in there, right? Some refused, stayed outside. Others were forced by the police to go and mine because, you are tools. We're not human beings. Yeah, we have to make money. What do you mean you're not going there because this one said we can't go? The hell? This is our money, right? So everybody then went, and I think about an hour or so later, that whole mine collapsed.
Do you know how many died?
I think over 400 people.
Flip. That's worse than the massacre.
And but there were about 1,000 people. So 1,000 people in that mine. Some managed to come out, but into a tune of hundreds.
Why is that not as talked about? Would form theories. That's your answer.
It's because our lives don't mean nothing. And that's why it's important to remember where you come from, so that we're not sitting in a position where we're trying to renegotiate our existence once more in this democracy. We should not be here where we are the most unequal people. When they say South Africa is unequal, this simply means that you and I are at the bottom of the food chain. That's what it simply means, right? So if we talk about these things and how our forefathers before us have given their lives, and I think given is not that, because nobody offered for their lives to be taken, but their lives were taken nonetheless, and no accountability was done, no follow-up was done, no memories, it's just pushed at the back of history. Those that can remember, and then we move forward.
Okay, what caused then the shift to say we're taking the fight globally, and what followed after?
Okay, so what happens after the mine disaster was the first load shedding of the country.
Oh,
Yes, because then we lost power.
do you know when that date was? That would be a cool date to know.
21st January 1960, that's when the mine collapsed. And then it stopped Ugesi, because that was the mine that was providing power to the ESCOM of that time. Right? I think the first power station was the one in Sasolburg by
I'm learning today.
It's a spoon. So
It feels like I'm in class.
but this is how much we don't know of ourselves. Can you see though?
True,
You know, so is what are we fighting for if we don't know?
Okay.
It's what it's made out of. So after that load shedding, then it affects obviously the power. It affects the industry around. And most importantly, it affects Johannesburg and Kimberley, right? So by I think end of February, beginning of March, that's when power was restored. So they had lost production for over a month, right? And now you come as the PAC and say you are doing a protest. We've just resumed production. What do you mean you're not going to work again with the same people that provide labor?
After the first national load shedding.
Yes, after the first national load shedding, you know. So the concentration, the theory that you asked about, the concentration of this arms, this excessive force in Shaville for the reasons of capital was basically that.
Okay.
That you are going to stop production and you're going to affect affecting our money once more, right? And remember, they had handpicked the people that will end up in Sharpville. So they didn't expect ukuthi, you know, ngikhethe phakathi kwabantu. So uyangihlaza manje, now you want to be amongst the people who are saying whatever, right? So they were not going to let that happen. And that's the theory that we have. But we also have a spiritual theory as well.
I'm curious, what was that one? I know someone will be offended if I don't ask.
I know, but I need to be careful how I phrase this, because I'm just inviting spirit into the whole conversation. But igazi is not meant to be taken loosely.
I get you.
We're not supposed to do that, right? And that goes from any life. We're not here to take life. Worse if it's a human being, but we're not here to take life as people, because dalong okufana emhlabeni, right? And so when you deliberately, consciously go out of your way to kill hundreds of people at a go, it's a glitch in the system. It's not supposed to happen in a spiritual world, because where are all these? It's not time. Okay. And so you take it upon your hands to do what you're doing. It's kufana noma uhlaba imbuzi for your own problems.
Steak.
For your own problems.
Oh, okay. My mind went to it, right?
For your own problems, because you believe ukuthi through its blood, right? I'm gonna get clean slate. That's why in Christ wathi igazi lemvana liyangeza.
Okay.
Right. So ukubulalwa kabantu at that mass scale, it's ritualistic.
Okay. And there were going to be consequences, which then became the end of the apartheid. Do you think that was connected, or?
Maybe there were interventions, but why are we excusing Abelung for Tagat?
Well, I wasn't. I was trying to connect the dots between...
Tagat. Ngobulala lo mangithi mina mangihlaba imbuzi or imvori ini to clean or atone things that I've done, right? Laba mebathatha impilo zabantu consciously in hundreds with like Americana sebeze nama ambulances. So this was calculated. Mamumuntu, you don't do that. If you're a sane person, you don't go out and plan to kill people like that who are unarmed. Why?
I get you. Well, I can't answer.
Yeah, no, but I think it's something that we need to ask ourselves. You know, if sitting in Pella Ikas is that important, if abakrestu batikas levala liangeza, tina city umasenza ngembuzi, something happens. What is the meaning of mass killing of people like that for the killers?
The international community saw this and threw sanctions at South Africa,
That's
which
when it
made
started,
it difficult for the apartheid government to operate. Do you remember what the sanctions were, who got involved? Do you know any of that part?
I was about to say, yes, I might know these things, but I was not there at the time.
Oh. The thing is, the way Nkuluma Ngakho has, not you were there.
I'm a storyteller, yes. I know what you mean. So I'm a mouthpiece of the elderly Shaville in particular. So the things that they've told me, right? But also, that's why the book Voices of Shaville is so important, because now it's written by people that they deemed peer. It's taken, as opposed to saying ukokwamwati. What so. But when these professors then come and prove what we've been saying all along, then it solidifies, for
the story of the collapse mine. Is it there in the story?
Yeah.
In the book,
yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Even the establishment of Sharpville, what the town is about, the industries, everything that I've talked about is there in the book.
Okay. In case I forget, where do you get this book if someone is interested?
You order it online. They had a bit exclusive books last year, but people are a bit struggling to get it. So just type online, then you get it.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, it's a deep part of history with a lot of pain. I'm curious about one thing though. Then how do we move on back to what the intended vision was, which is let's all be equal, let's all work together, because that seems to not be happening.
Yeah. We have to clean house as African people. But where do we then say it ends here, it stops here? I stop believing, because why would it then take these professors got 2018 to prove what the elderly of Shaville have been saying all along? Why would it be them? Yabo? So we were quick to say 21st March is Human Rights Day without really interrogating how that story came about, so that we explain to the kids Human Rights Day is because this happened and that's why. Now there is no sense of attachment. It feels foreign. It's human rights. You understand?
I never thought of it that way, but the way you say it, yeah, I get you.
It feels very much foreign. But if you're saying these kids, people that look like me and you have gone through this, were denied their humanness, so that you today can then say, I'm human. It hasn't translated economically, yes, but akfani than what it was before. And so then it gives them a mission to take from Laba Laba Shiakon, right? Because they did their part. We're here now, we're sitting, we're speaking English, it's all good and nice, you know, in the Lily suburbs. This would not happen back then. You and I would need to carry a pass, and somebody would have stamped us in, and we would have a limited time where to be a crew. Do you understand? So all of these things that we enjoy now as second nature cost a lot of lives, and young people's lives who are in their 20s, 18s, because the majority of the people who were killed were at that age and shot.
What do you think the message should be to young people now? Because if young people back then had the power to bring us this change, do you think things have changed? And the younger generation now doesn't appreciate their true power to affect things in the economy?
I think they don't know And the beauty about them is that they interact with white people. We got them at the tail end of our lives, that interaction with our white people. And Abu Mama Betu, it was that boss and maid type setup, right?
Yeah.
For them, they are friends now with these kids, right? They are cordial. They don't see how we see them, right?
Okay.
There's the when I want to be, it's just like, you know, yeesh, you know, you know. But with them, it's hi Mark, hi Tsibo, hi whoever, you know, and they're okay. So
That's a good thing, right?
it's a good thing, but they also need to know that things are not okay across the race. You should not be okay with you living in the suburbs and somebody or hlala elokishini or emkhukhwini. It should not feel okay to you, because that is not a product of them being lazy. It is the product of the system that makes other people higher in the hierarchy, and it's constant and it's widening. So we can be friends, we can love one another, but if we are going to be the future, the offices that we're going to step into now as one nation needs to reflect that. You shouldn't be okay with it, you know, a township becomes your tourist attraction and then you get to go back and live in the little suburbs. The fact that you are there, and sometimes somebody that worries about bread, you don't got to worry about it. At your most littlest effort, at least take bread there. And then ikhule kanjalo ukuthi when you're in office, do something. Be an ally. You know, when you are in this high position, don't now want to perpetuate the status quo. It's not functional for a country. We are a tick and tambo. We can dance and do all those TikTok challenges as and when, right? But reality strikes when we go back home. And when now all of these things are supposed, it's not a normal life we're living in South Africa as a people. It doesn't make sense with abanye they're that high up and others are. At least let's all strive to strike a comfortable middle. That means with now mana masuti I 10, at least give away 4.
I get you. Have you worked with many African countries?
Yes.
Are you afraid to expose how well you traveled?
yes, I think in a way, yeah. Which means I haven't traveled much. But you know,
I want to ask you something. I went to Kenya and they were asking me, as South Africa, we look at the news and wonder, as a country, why are you guys so angry?
Because we are this good country on paper. But when they say South Africa is one of the most unequal countries in the world, I think it means there's the richest person in South Africa and the most poorest of the poorest person in South Africa is worse off all over the world. So we're angry. We've been shortchanged. Actually, you know. And somebody said, well, maybe it's because we didn't want democracy, right? If you think back to struggle, you can't even name one song that to say, I don't democracy. No. No.
What would they be saying we wanted?
Isolate.
Just like
yeah, because with land there's self-determination. I'm not confined, I'm cooking umncane, and that's my life. And then you want to compare with somebody who's got all the resources here, and then we're going to compete fairly. It doesn't make sense. And like I said, it's not of their doing. It's systematical. So, and if it's a system, it means you and I are the ones that are upholding it to exist. So if we're saying we're in rainbow, we are one, we're this, now we move from Lashlizikon.
that's not gonna happen.
No, if it's not gonna happen, we're gonna see trouble. If they think we're angry, we're gonna see trouble. That's inevitable. Because you know what's happening? I'm not trying to justify crime here. With Nabantu, who had decided never to be or to engage in crime, akasenamsebenzi, akasenani. What do you think comes next if my children don't have food? What do you think comes next? If umfazi wami uthi uzobuya la usonga izandla, and it's not like usonga izandla, you don't even have money to go to town to look for that job. And if you do have money to go look for that job, you're not going to get that job because there are no jobs.
You're reminding me of a quote that someone said. He says, the poor can't sleep because they have nothing to eat.
And the rich
can't sleep because the poor are awake. You know it.
This is exactly our life. Yeah. This is exactly our life. Think about it. Because otherwise, why are we investing so much in security? Every single time you're upgrading security. Who are you closing outside? You see, because it's a problem. And I tell you, it doesn't matter how much security that you're going to implement, they will find a way in. Because the security guy goes back to the township. The one that installed your security goes back to the township. We don't give them train 4, 5 and wake up at 5.
And educates them.
Man,
this is the system. This is the loophole.
Yeah. Because you always need people to implement things.
Let's talk about healing initiative, because I don't believe you stand more on just the advocacy side. There should be healing that we talk about.
Yes.
What are the initiatives that you think should be happening or are already happening? Because I'm curious if you feel as a nation we have healed, or both parties.
No, we have not healed. Because if we, when you heal, it's when you get a clean slate, right? Your past then becomes a reference point, but not things that you're still living today, and sometimes worse than what your past was, right? So we have not healed, and that healing comes to that. Now, healing it does not come from African people. Should not come from African people only. I believe now, this thing of wanting to hoard. Everything, that's a sickness, that's greed. Right? And it can't function. It's not welcome in a harmonious society. I gotta take up your problems and you have to take up mine. So healing is not for only us. Yes, Tina, we've been through trauma at your hand. But nani ukubulala umuntu does not come easy. That's why I pay you. There's that godlike complex that is unjustifiable, because you and I are human beings. What makes you think you're better than me?
Get you. And then the healing initiatives?
For a rainbow to exist, all the colors must be present in equal hues, right? And to show up as your authentic or as your equal self, now it may be right. So there's individual healing that is necessary per person. There's family healing that is needed per family. There's communal healing that is needed. And then there's national healing that is needed. All of those things lead to one another, right? But how do we start? I think we've got this backwards, whereby we're concentrating mainly on individual healing, right? And how much are you putting in and whatnot? And it's totally, completely dependent on you. Whereas we need to have a mandate of a national healing, which is sonke mesilungelo, then it translates backwards. Okay. As opposed to me trying to make a difference la langkon, right? With the little money that I have but there's a mentor yaga King Moshwesh. He was a healer and a chief at the time.
Okay.
And he handpicked Mushashi to be the king that will form the Basotho nation, right? His philosophy, Muhlomi, was that you teach the conscience of a person, right? This is what you train or out of a national mission. So Sonke, we have that consciousness. This is where we're all going. And what that does is that if this thing comes from Ngapakatuwako, I don't need to guard you. So there's no need for prisons. There's no need because all of us have the same mission and the same consciousness, that we have. That's why it's important to have a national mission, as a national consciousness. Hayi abelungu bazohamba bayothi thina siyabulawa lena abathi nini hamanga nathi asibabulale, and then now we want to go and and report to the big master. Right? It's because we don't have a national mission or a national goal to heal holistically. We still want to hold on to the gains of apartheid, and others must also hold on to the losses endured during apartheid. And then how are we going? Because then sehamba song. We're never
It's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah.
That there's others hanging on to the gains, there's others hanging on to the trauma.
Loss. Yes. And we're saying we are one.
We are one, let's work together.
No. There's no even working together. There is no working together, because the ones that have gains are still control. If we're working together, it means I need to make sure you're okay. You need to make sure that I'm okay.
During the 21st,
Yes.
you've got events coming up. Are they structured in a way that you guys want to bring this healing, or
Yes.
what are they set up for?
Totally.
Talk to us about the couple of events that are coming through.
Okay, so I'm a healer, yes, but I'm also a CEO of the Shaville Foundation, right? And so we put up events throughout. This year actually marks 65 years since the massacre. Of course, in months.
It's okay.
It marks 65 years of the massacre, right? And over the years, so after the massacre happened, nobody was allowed to commemorate. The first commemoration happened in 1973. And the 73s, there's that youth. You see the youth that's always been present. Yeah. So the youth of 72, they started, you're not allowed to gather anywhere and talk about Sharpeville. Right? So they buried it. And then African people that started commemorating Gogo Tsoana Nhlapo here and there. Then came 94 that says now it's Human Rights Day. Right? And when it's Human Rights Day, it's all encompassing. It doesn't talk about Sharpeville. But you still have to pay homage to Shaville, because the whole world on the 21st of March looks to what happened in Shaville. So what then happens is that you bring human rights into Shaville. And if you bring human rights with the big budget, you swallow the story of Shaville. Because now we must all be happy, it's all Rainbow Nation. But the very site that's supposed to remind us why, we are observing this day is not observed properly. So for years, then you get EPAC now coming to commemorate its own way, right? Nothing about the community. You get the government and the ANC coming to do. Everybody comes into Sharpeville to make a statement. So it means everybody understands the importance of that, but nobody really wants to talk about what happened. And this is where we come in as the people of Sharpeville. Okay, you are coming here. Something obviously draws you to this township, but let us tell you. But now the rot or the damage is so done, you can't come to Sharpeville and really see what's about. It's sad, because when you look at the Afrikaner, when they go to the Voortrekker Museum, when they're going to commemorate the blood that they've lost here, aguna mojaivo, aguna chwala, agunani. They remember the people whose lives were taken for them to be here and enjoy this, right? Tina, on the other hand, whether it's Soweto, whether it's Reconciliation Day, whether bona munyanya one way.
What do you think causes that, though?
It's because we are erasing the history with names that have no bearing to the original story. Multi Youth Day, you are raising Soweto, right? Multi Reconciliation Day, you are raising Dingani. Multi Heritage Day, you are raising Ushak. Okay? So all of those things, they've now been put in a little bowl to be presentable and to not make other people uncomfortable. But there is no way that you should not be uncomfortable if you're still holding on to the gains. Because if you know that you're not holding on to the gains unjustly, right? You've made sure that everybody is okay, everything is well taken care of. Then you look at 21st of March as a reflection. Oh, we were horrible to each other. I can't believe we were those people. But look at where we are. We can't even sit and say, look at where we are. Because where we are is that anger that they're talking about.
I have a few white friends, and that's why maybe many of us young ones struggle with this part, because the friends that are there, they're genuinely great people, great individuals. Some have helped me and mentored me as well. So it becomes so hard to connect the dots between the two. Even when we had the complaint to the US, I knew they were as angry as I was.
But that's what gives you guys an advantage.
What do you mean?
To change, right? To change. Because, okay, all of that relation that you guys have is a foundation for a conversation. And this country, you know, and it also starts with you not always coming here and speaking their English. Take them to the township. They're the ones that are going to tell their parents, nah, man. Yes,
can't be.
You know, as well spoken as Ntando is, 20 of them live in a 4-roomed house. No way, like, that's that. Ntando. I'm Ntando. Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, they live in a 4-roomed house and they're 20. His mother is selling this, is not doing this, and then this woman's like, oh, mama, or whoever is listening, like, we gotta do something. You know, this thing in my house is not. That hoarding spirit, that greed spirit, you know, because people are like, no, I don't have the riches, I don't own the farms, I don't do this, I don't do that. At your littlest space, you can do change. Yeah, but so you guys are the ones, you know, with your proper English and stuff like Tina. Tina will remind you, right? It's not normal. Soweto is a concentration camp. Shaville is a concentration camp. All these townships are concentration camps. We are in our millions in these small spaces. And then Mafika Kabo Mark, acres and acres and swimming pool, and he's got his room, he's got his bed. That is human. That's how humans are supposed to live. Not this.
That's how all humans.
All humans, yes. No, we don't even need to say humans. We don't need to say all humans. When you say humans, it encompasses everybody. But other people like to think they're more human than I. No. Singabantu sonke, and I deserve acres of land, swimming pool, my children. I deserve that by virtue of existing in this land with all of this vastness.
I'll ask you a question that will come up on some people's minds, actually, and I would love to hear your take on it.
Sorry, I'm still the spirituality and the healing part, Shaville. We'll go back to that. So where does what? Sorry, I forgot to answer your question. Yes.
We'll come back to it.
Yeah.
Where does work ethic and ambition and taking control of your life come in? Because as much as we can say everyone deserves to live a particular life, we can't ignore the fact that some people don't work hard.
Yes,
some people prefer to go and drink instead of going to school.
Yes,
even at that young age. We see these differences.
Justified. Yes.
Someone who will say, it's been 30 years. It's been long enough for you to figure a way out.
To catch up.
Yeah. So you were not there during apartheid. If you are struggling now, you have to take a bit more accountability and responsibility for where you are.
Okay. I get that. And I've got 2 answers for this, right? The first one is if you think about hard work, or maybe we don't know what the definition of hard work is, the most hardest working people.
Yeah, I think everyone can picture what that looks like.
So
going to the mine and digging, and
if hard work then translates to a good life, the math is not mathing. The person that goes underground and go digs and go does this and go, you know, and that we say that is hard work, and they still have to fight for 12,500 rand. And then somebody else, then based on what you are doing underground, gets millions and millions of bonuses annually. Where is the hard work, right? Because I could say, okay, your definition of hard work as that high-ranking person with that kind of salary is mainly connections. You can speak to so-and-so who can buy into this and this and that. So hard work. Also, let's look at what hard work really means, and then see if it correlates towards that.
Okay, I could define it the way I understand it, but you said you had two answers to this.
Yes.
When I look at hard work, sometimes to get to the level of the CEO, for example, there is work involved in the journey. I'm not saying it can't be inherited.
Yes,
it can. We know that that's possible.
Yeah.
But there are many people that grow up in the township, for example,
and
make it to those levels. They
Definitely.
work really hard
Definitely.
to get to that position.
Yeah.
That's the kind of hard work I mean, where you do a lot of work to position yourself in a certain position in life or in your career that can pay you.
Yes, I know. I do. I think we agree with one another, and yes, that is.
We do
evidence.
need to be accountable.
Yeah, and also African people, we have to. This is where now we have to. When I said every color needs to represent itself, not we need to show up, hey? No, for real. We really have to show up properly.
Yeah,
we can't go in with a sympathy card. The sympathy card opens the door, right? But you also have to put in the work, right? But after that door has been open and I'm there putting on the work, do not then put obstacles or make me jump hoops that are not identical to the other person purely on the
I get you.
on the skin basis. But Tina, amongst ourselves, no, we have to be accountable.
You need to check ourselves.
No, we have to check ourselves, really. No, properly too. We need to call one another out properly because these girls are toss, right?
Yo.
Isn't we're out of line, we're out of pocket.
What do you mean? For someone who has this cost, Namis Gezo, that skip me and Nazis. That sounds more violent than the first.
We should have left it in his guys, right? But so we need to have those internal conversations amongst ourselves, right? Whilst we're trying to position ourselves in this holistic space where everybody is present, we definitely have to talk amongst ourselves. All
right, I get you. So that was the first answer. The second one?
The second one, we're talking about hard work. Okay, so then the second one then becomes, even after all of that, I think I've covered it, but even after all of that hard work, do not make it harder for me.
Okay, no, you did cover it. You did. You said there's something you wanted to answer that you didn't.
Yes. You were asking about the way we commemorate, right? And how is it different than how everybody else either comes to celebrate human rights?
End up drinking and dancing and all of that.
So over the years, I mean, I've started doing the Shaville work immediately after high school, which was 97. I was drawn to it. But when you live in the township, you even forget with certain things, or you don't know as a child. Every single day. So I started being conscious about what Shaville is after high school. So I've been working, and every time there was this drive that people must always remember. So we'll do events, lectures, this and that and that and that. It was only until I grew up, I was in Kulisiwe spiritually, that we started looking at this thing differently. Actually, what is it that we're celebrating? What is it that we're commemorating? And the bottom line is the people's souls, people's lives that were taken. And even though we buried the physical, we buried the body, as African people, they are rites of passages and rituals that we do to transcend a person. And there are also rites of rituals and passages, rites of
it's okay.
Rituals and it's long, man. Listen to correct things, right?
Okay.
And we're not saying we didn't kill each other before the colonization. We did, but when we came back after NBN, there were rituals, right, that were done to sort of normalize and also to induct the soldiers back into society. We did not do that in Sharpeville and anywhere else that we have fallen. We've not taken time to deal with the spirit, because we want to celebrate, we want to commemorate, we want to be intellectual about this, but nobody wants to be spiritual about it.
If I follow that train of thought, my question would be, can it not be done, and why has it not been done?
This is where then our way of commemorating came in. right? To say, okay, now let's look at it spiritually, because these are our people. I mean, the grandmother that I'm named after was not short, but she was part of the people. And so you inherit that trauma for generations to come, right? So when we then want to, as I grew spiritual, I was like, oh, let's look at this thing spiritually now. What transpired. And Shaville Massacre, I think, is the only massacre that has records. They made sure to destroy everything that will point them back, right? So what doesn't have as much detailed records as what Shaville has. And Shaville was before Soweto. And the reason why this happened is because there was a spiritual intervention after Shaville Massacre to say, listen, we are confined, we're not supposed to do our rituals, but let's rather put a measure here that when the time comes and everybody's free, they will remember, right? And that intervention was done by Obab Muto. Credo.
Okay.
Credo had his fiancée was part of the people who were killed. And to keep spiritual memory, he did a ritual over this woman's body, including her family, to say it doesn't matter how long they silence us, they cover up this thing and all of those things. One day, when we're free, truth will come out. There will be somebody or some people who are spiritually enlightened to be able to tap into certain things that will unlock things that we could not talk about over the years. So he did that and moved on with his life, right? And then kukula abantwana bomoya eSharpville, and we start asking questions and we start feeling uneasy. And so what we did was to look back with, okay, the 21st of March is when the white people were doing their things, whether it's a ritual or not. It's something that we still have to, get into it with spiritually inclined people, right? And but Tina, where we are, let's go back and look at while the people of Shaville, while my grandmother was still alive, while that trauma was still not there, which is the 20th of March, right? Those people were living their lives in whatever condition that the system allowed them to live, right? They were living their lives. They did not think they were going to die tomorrow. There was life amongst African people. So these are the people, this is the spirit that you need to tap into. Okay. Because if you tap into the 21st of March, you tap into the spirit of the people that died. And so we looked back and then we found out there were women who held a prayer the night before the massacre.
Okay.
They had that feeling something is not right.
Okay.
Yeah. So they held a prayer to almost cushion whatever it is that was going to come. So by Kwaba Nomthandazo, okay, and the massacre happened and the rest everybody knows. But when we started to commemorate that night vigil as the people of Shaville, that's when these stories of this book started to seep back. And the professors now started to affirm what the people of Shaville have been saying. So it means the spiritualists that live now were able to unlock certain seals that were closed spiritually. And now, because the time and the times allow for us to express ourselves spiritually, we're able to ask and to do things that will rise and give us back. And so this then becomes...
So the events, are they coming to sort of help in that regard?
They have helped. This is our 4th year. On the 20th of March, we'll be doing 4th year anniversary of the night vigils. To now hold a prayer. And by prayer, we don't discriminate anybody.
Any religion.
If ukonza ukukanya, if your heart is at the right place and you're not trying to be uktagata, right? So whether we nyanga, katolika, postola, mzalwane, if you have a prayer in you, a genuine prayer, and you want to see this country have some sort of direction and normalcy, then you're invited.
When are the events? What's the structure?
The night vigil is happening on the 20th of March in Shaville at the site of where the massacre happened. So it starts at 9 o'clock.
PM.
Yeah, it's a night vigil. Umlindelo. It starts at 9 o'clock.
How long?
And overnight. It's a lindela.
Yes.
Yes. And throughout that, then we have different expressions. Abangoma will come and sing and pray the way they do. The Christians will come and sing. They pray. And nobody,
I'm better.
We all have a common goal. Either to help them cross over or to grow spiritually or to be able to rectify, because Tina, as African people, we don't believe you might not be in your physical form, but you can't kill energy.
All right. Yeah. I think close to my last question.
Yes.
The gents, they like to pick clips and throw them with TikTok. Yeah, okay. I actually wonder what he's going to pick here. I'm sure.
Good luck to him.
He's been salivating. But he picked one last time and he posted it and it got some serious heat on TikTok because the guy was saying apartheid damaged our confidence, and because we lack in confidence in general, we make poor financial decisions. There was a nice connection to it. But his main point was about the poor financial decisions that we're making because
we lack confidence.
In confidence.
I agree.
When you come into an interview, you don't believe you're worthy, and because you act accordingly, you lose on an opportunity. Yeah. So the question I have to you, because when it went, there was a lot of heat, and you can imagine my comments, they were not coming from
you're about to get more of those.
And the comments were, it's been 30 years, stop blaming apartheid, blame your government, because they came in, they didn't do any better. Arguably, they could have done worse.
So what's the question?
What's your take on that? People who are saying it's been too long. At what point are you going to heal? At what point are you, who was not there, going to stop crying about it because you are not there? It's your parents that suffered, not you.
That's a loaded answer. You cannot have, when you are born as a girl, so whether I was not, and awako, so in me, I have my eggs, my daughter's eggs, and so it's 3 generations that live in a person.
Okay.
So you inherit that trauma, whether I was not there, Mina physically, but that trauma has been birthed through me. That's why utola umuntu uvela with certain behaviors that you can't explain is because they inherited from them. Yeah, they inherited traumas. So I might not have been physically there, but ngizelwe nayo. And to your question then, to say 30 years, we've moved on. I agree, and I don't agree. And my agreeing goes back to us as people. We've let people tell us, and we've let people tell us who we are and lived by how they live. You cannot be confident, Maseko. If you cannot be confident. You can live, survive, but I was to be.
I can't feel confident in my skin if I grow up in a place that I know is not home or doesn't feel like home.
Doesn't feel like home, right?
Sure, okay.
It doesn't feel like home. So there's always that reminder with, I don't belong, I don't belong, I don't belong. And there's nowhere else where us as African people belong more than here. Others can come from Egypt, Somalia, Zimbabwe. They can come because there's still a country called South Africa. Outside of Cape Town is just water. Sizoyapi. And so we have to feel at home here. And if you don't feel at home, I can't wake up in the morning, take 5 different taxis and still want to be confident. Yes, Nord. Right? And I have to come and I'm sweating and, my life has flashed through my eyes 5 times in one trip because of a taxi driver doing all of those things. And then at 9 o'clock, I have to sit there and be confident. It doesn't work like that. So 30 years, yes, we have to look into ourselves as African people. We talked about this. We have to check ourselves.
Check ourselves.
Yeah. And that checking of ourselves comes with hard questions. Fairy tales, I guess, is speak what resonates with you. And the first point of you finding something that resonates with you is when you start speaking your language, because it guides you. Tina makama way to don't come G. It's guidance, you know. So you have to now start going back to being that black color or whatever color that we are in the rainbow. So kumele sizilungise, right? That's on us.
That's on where you agree.
That's when I agree. 30 years. We've only had bad policies. And that's why we go all over the world to say South Africa is the best constitution. On paper, we look good. Oh, we look good to the world. And even to us, because when you read these things, this is how a just society needs to live. Because we look good on paper. All our policies says, you know, we're all equal, you know, it's batupele. We have all these beautiful phrases, but they never translate into real life. Right? And that makes us to be where we are. These others, can we, you know? Yeah. That there's systematic ways that they hire. There's systematic things that they do to disadvantage you. 30 years that doesn't mean nothing if they don't change their behavior.
And if the system and structure is still there.
30 years means nothing. We could be still here in 100 years if we don't change our behavior from both sides, from both the benefactors and those who are taken advantage of. There is no way. 100 years, unfortunately, you and I will, well, I certainly won't be here, but somebody will be doing
100 years from now,
yeah,
I will not
somebody
be
will be somebody will be looking back at this podcast and like, oh my God, I can't believe we're still here, because the benefactors don't want to move from their comfort zone. So 30 years, 50 years, 100 years really means nothing. But
what
also
would you change if you're
Where?
in power? Let's make you the president for 2 minutes.
What will I change? The conscience of the people. I'll invest a lot of time in the conscience of the people. And you know, what's the tangible example of that? The people of Burkina Faso.
Okay.
Right?
Explain. I know Rwanda.
Yes.
Not too in touch with Burkina Faso.
The current president, Traore, you know, there was a coup. He took over that country.
Yeah.
In the short space, it will show you how hypocritical our past leaders have been. In a short space of that man's tenure in office, he's turned things around. There's functionality, there's intentionality. We're not going to wear wigs, a coat. We're not going to wear clothing from outside. We're not going to, you know, all of that with it's intentional in a short space of time.
Even his dress code in front
Even his dress code, you know, and so what when we talk about then working on the consciousness of people, he says, okay, I think I've done all I could in Funukushia pants. You know who's fighting for him to stay? The Burkinabe people. But Anyeke, we're not do no. Shala wena lapho will tell you when to come down. Whereas Tinala, we can't wait for Ramaphosa to go. We couldn't wait for Zuma to go. We couldn't wait for Thabo Mbeki to go.
I'm looking at your team holding their hands. They are literally
like, no, ma'am, no. You're saying too much. You know? So it's because the people of Burkina Faso, they even donated money to the state. When they put in sanctions, which we're not going to do this, they produced their first gold bars. Their first gold bars. That country is moving from a negative deficit to a positive because there's a decision. And when they're paying off their debt. And when they closed off the money from the donors and all of those things, they took out from their 2 rands. That's all you need. All these rhetorics about Kulumayo visiting the city that you live in, it's not going to change nothing. No.
You invited us to one event. What are the other events? Let's not forget that.
Okay, so
you say the first one is the night vigil.
It's the night vigil on the 20th of March. So we've just decided also on the 27th, and my team is going to be like, on the 27th of March, we are doing a book launch, a dual book launch. This book was supposed to be launched in Shaville last year, and the professors came down, but we couldn't because of they had to go back, blah, 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 you know. And the reason why we insist on launching this book in Shaville, because it's the only truest reflection of the truth at the moment. Right? These people went to the street and got what was said and came up with this academic work, right? That proves what we've been saying. So we want this to have, because some of the people that they talk about in the book still lives. Awundate Tekiso was an activist, was a 19-year-old PAC activist at the time, still alive, right? So they got the stories from them. So we want to launch this book, and also the book of Professor Dondolo from UNISA. He wrote a book called One Race, and it's based on the lives of Robert Sobukwe.
Okay.
There is no Sobukwe without Shaville, and there's no Shaville without Sobukwe. So that's what's happening in March. April, we have Freedom Month programs. So we'll put them all in our website. So the commemoration of the 65th anniversary starts on the 20th of March until next year, March again. So those programs will be on our social medias and our website when it comes up.
All right. Closing words from you. What do you have to say to young people, particularly those in school?
To the young people in school, you are fortunate enough to live in an era where information is free. Choose wisely which information you consume so that it can help propel you, but not only you, your family, your community, your country. So have that discernment to say, in all of this information overload, right? And all of the things that I'd like to consume as a person, maybe let me reserve a little bit of some time into things that will build me while I build my family, while I build my community, while I build my nation, so that we can, 20 years from now, we can say it's been 50 years.
Your answer was so touching. I can't not ask this one. What do you have to say to older people who are struggling with their healing? They're still angry.
That will be me. I'm the older people.
I didn't mean for it to be personal.
I'm the older people, but also there are people who are older than me, whose trauma is more tangible, who still have those bullet wounds, who still have those scars from jumping fences, who still has that trauma of being kicked and whatever. So our outlook is very different. And so to them, all I can say is that, you've done all that you could. You've put your bodies on the line for us. We are grateful for it. If you can, try and enjoy the rest of your life.
Wow.
If you can. For my old people,
that goes to you as well.
For my old people, my kind of old people, we have a responsibility to teach the young. To be there when they start looking for that information that we challenge them to look for. We need to be there to fill that space with truth, fact, and honesty.
Enough said.
Marcos.
Thank you. They almost clap themselves for quite. I hope you have enjoyed this as much as I have. It's been more than a history lesson. And I did say in my intro that I was a bit nervous about where it would go. And I guess by now you know why. Because these are highly emotional topics. These are topics that have led to a lot of anger. And that's the reality that we are facing out there. But thank you for hanging with us till this time. We're going to put links to the website, Sharpville Foundation, so you get to check out more of the work that they do, the events that are still coming. But from us with the team, see you on the next episode. Thank you.